our top 5 favorite books of all time. We'll start by 5 and we'll go to number 1, obviously. 5 is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. It's a very well known book in the booktube community. When I read it, I cried. It's very touching story. It's about a boy whose mother is gravely ill, and one night a monster comes calling, and he tells him a story. And this book is very much about grief and about illness and what it does to the people around you. And it was partly written by Patrick Ness, but partly by Shahpan Daud. It's probably, I probably don't pronounce it correctly, but it was her idea, but she died before she could finish it, and Patrick Ness finished it. And the idea was for her child. I don't recall if she had a boy or a son or a daughter, but it was supposed to be the comfort to her, to the child. So when I posted the review, my mother read it and she's like, okay, now I want to read it as well, and she cried as well. So yeah, it's very touching. It also has a beautiful adaptation. So it was really, really well done, the adaptation. But this version has like really pretty drawings. Look, it's just so beautiful. Look.
So my pick for number 5 is Wacht niet op de morgen. It's a Dutch book. In English it is called, the translation is Don't Wait for Tomorrow. It takes place during the Crusader Kingdom in Jerusalem. It's between the first and the second crusade.
So it stinks here.
Yeah, someone is cooking outside and it smells pretty bad.
I'm very close.
Yeah, do that. It's about a Belgian monk who meets in his cloister a knight who is traveling to Jerusalem, and they start a conversation, and during that conversation they make a plan to move together to Jerusalem, travel together to Jerusalem. When they are there, they get separated. He meets the heir of the Jerusalem kingdom, Baldwin IV. He's later called Baldwin IV because when he's 13 he gets the crown because his father died. And during his stay there he gets in conversation with a Jew and a few Muslims. So what I liked about the series is that they talk about how the 3 Abrahamistic religions are more like continuation of something. So it started with the Jews, then you had the Christians who took over the baton, so to speak, and then you have the Muslims who were the end of the line. And it's also about what's the kingdom that has to come. Was the Utopia, because it's also about it's also about a community where people with what's called leprosy gets treated, and how they're also always ostracated by the ostracized by the community. And so it is about the promised land, the kingdom of heaven that is coming to the earth, and how it's going to come about, and how it's what it looks like. And it's also about Baldwin IV, and how he has struggles with the other forces inside his court, who wants to wage war against the Muslims, and he is more like peace loving, so he wants to keep the peace between Salah ad-Din and Jerusalem, and how they respect each other, and how mostly Baldwin respects Salah ad-Din, and so it's really great, because I always find it fascinating when two characters stand on a different side of the battlefield, but they don't hate each other, but they respect each other, and they want to understand each other. Of course, it's not really historically accurate in that sense, because the actual Baldwin IV was pretty nifty, and so he knew to choose his battles. So it's not like he was really warmongering, but he knew that if he wanted to keep the kingdom, not really historically accurate, because the actual Baldwin IV is an historical figure, and Salah ad-Din, of course, was pretty nifty, and he knew that if he wanted to keep the kingdom together, Jerusalem together, he had to win the war between Salah ad-Din and his forces and Jerusalem. So yeah, he knew when to keep the peace and when to fight, and yeah, so they knew of each other, and yeah, there were some conversations between the two, and also the other thing is Baldwin IV had also leprosy, which is really peculiar for that time. Well, not that he had it, but that he still could be, that he still was recognized as a king, because like I said before, people with lepers were ostracized by the community, and here was the leader of the Jerusalem kingdom, who was a leper himself. So yeah, that's another fascinating thing about this. So yeah, that's my number 5.
So, now on to Stella and Ike from the past. So, the 4th spot is for an author that's also very known in the booktube community, and I just love him as a person as well, and it would have been fantastic if he was my teacher, but alas. I'm talking about Rick Riordan, of course, and his series Percy Jackson. So I'm counting all 3, 5 series. Okay, I'm counting all 3 of his series that are about the Roman and Greek gods. So not the Norse or Egyptian mythologies. I just love that he wrote this for his HDID on the son, who was also dyslexic. And I love the concept that everyone can be a hero, whether or not you're a person of color, whether or not you're dyslexic, or whether or not you're an LGBTQ person. So I just love the diversity of the books and the humor. It's so funny, and the pop culture references are on point. So I adore the series, and on the one hand, I'm really looking forward to the next 2 books in the Apollo series. On the other hand, I'm really sad that it's over. So, but all good things must come to an end, because as much as I like it, I wouldn't like him to drag it out. So yeah.
Spot. Number 4 is X, otherwise known as X-Clamp or X 1999. It's a manga series. It's the Kamui, it's one of the main characters series. It is inspired by the last book of the Bible, about apocalypse, mainly and it's about two groups of people, the dragons of earth and the dragons of heaven. The dragons of earth are also called the seven angels. Like in the Bible, the seven angels need to break the seven seals to herald in the new world that's coming. And then you have the seven dragons of heaven, and they're also called the seven seals. And those, the dragons of heaven, protect the earth from being, well, mostly they protect the human race against the dragons of earth, because the dragons of earth want to destroy humanity to save the earth from destruction. So it's really commendable, actually, what they want to do, but yeah, not really fun for us humans. So yeah, it's about that, and it's what I find fascinating about it is it's all three of all the dragons from both the heavens and earth. They're preordained to play their part in the things that are coming, but a few of them don't want to play their parts, and a few of them do want to play their parts, but they have their own reasons for playing them, because they want revenge, or because they are apathetic what happens to humans, and they're like, well, doesn't matter what I do, I will play my part because I don't care, actually. And they have people who are, yeah, they want to protect humanity because they have loved ones they want to protect. And yeah, it's really about their their personal struggles and the fight against their fates. And yeah, that's why what I find fascinating about this series. And yeah,
I also adore it. We both have a literary crush on Kamui. There's only like two people I have a literary crush on, and he's one of them. So yeah, Kamui, we love him. Yeah. So yeah, so it's very interesting. I saw the adaptation, the anime adaptation, but I haven't read the book. So no. I'm planning on it one day, but yeah.
But I have actually two crushes in this. Well, two actually, and one couple I really adore. But my second crush is her. It's Arashi.
In the third place is a Sherlock Holmes retelling. Like I don't know if you guys saw my to be read bookcase, but I talked about that I liked. Sherlock Holmes retellings, and it's very hit or miss with me. But this one stands out because I read it. It's a horror story. I don't like horror films, but horror books I quite like. And I read it on a almost empty tram around 9 o'clock at night while I was on my way to a choir practice. I hadn't gone to do the choir yet, so it was my first choir practice. I had to audition that night as well, so I was really nervous, and it was late at night in an empty tram, almost empty tram, and I read a horror book. So it just really got to me, and it's called The Cthulhu Case Books, Sherlock Holmes and the Shadwell Shadows by James Lovegrove, and it's crossover between Sherlock Holmes and the monster of B.C. Lovecraft. So it's very cleverly done, because Sherlock Holmes is very rational, so how can it be crossover? But it's really cleverly done. It's so bone chilling and creepy, and I just adore it. So I'm thinking about reading the original Lovecraft stories. But it's like a really big chunk of a book. There are lots of stories. So first I want to I have audiobook app, and there are some Lovecraft stories on it. So I'm going to listen on that, and if I like his writing and the writing style, I'm going to buy the book. And there are really pretty versions in the bookstore. So But yeah, it's just so many emotions, and it terrified me to no end. So just yes, I adore it.
So my number 3 is The Redeemer from Joe Nesbo. A Scandinavian writer. It's a detective thriller. It's the I think the third of the fourth book of the series, the Harry Hole series, which is a detective. Um, who is a detective? Sorry. The reason I love this book is because of the villain. Yeah, the Redeemer. Because
I love a complex villain.
yeah, but he was cute. Yeah, I know it sounds. Oh, but how do I explain it?
Just read the books.
Yeah, just read it. But the reason he kills people, I get him. I actually get him. I'm just like, yeah, I don't believe in death sentences, but sometimes I think, yeah, the world is better off without some people, and he takes care of that. But he's also he's really simple in his way that he sees the world, and he's really innocent, actually. Yeah, and because the things he experienced during his childhood, he has a lot of problems, but he's quite childlike in how he sees the world and how he thinks about his late friend he lost, and because he also was a child soldier during war, and yeah, it is. You also read the experiences of the murderer. So yeah, that's why you know why he's doing the things he does. And while I was reading it, I really hoped he was going away, because
He was able to get away.
yeah, because it didn't want him to get caught at all. So yeah. And
don't spoil it if he gets away or not, Mr.
No, I'm not going to spoil it.
You're kind of implying that he. No.
Yeah, but because
yes.
It is the reason he's called the Redeemer, because as many people of you know, Jesus is also called the Redeemer, and it's about redemption, and how redemption is often more important than just justice. Even if he's, of course, he is also getting justice done, but it's about the main reason is redemption for him and his family and the ones he loves. So yeah, that's why I really like this one.
So, for my second choice, and after the second choice, I have my many honorable mentions because I adore books, so it's really difficult to choose. So, after a second book, this is going to be our honorable mention. But first, our second choice. My second choice is a book I talked about previously, about why I fell in love with the Roman era, and it's called Roman Blood by Stephen Saylor, and it's the first novel in a very long series. This year he wrote the last book, and he started publishing it in the 90s. So yeah, there are lots of books, and the ending is fantastic. Like, he ends with him starting to write this book, his memoir. So it's full circle. So yeah, it's just really fascinating. But this is the one that started it all. So it's about Gregorius the Finder. Gordianus. I always say his name wrong. Gordianus the Finder is a detective during the last years of the Republic of ancient Rome, and he mingles with the likes of Caesar, Mark Antony, Cicero, of Kaiser and Cicero. So it's really fascinating to see him mingle with historical figures like Cleopatra and stuff, and it's just really. This is also the reason why I fell in love with one of my favorite genres, and it's a detective novel set in history, so in ancient times. One of the other contributors is Sherlock Holmes, the original stories. They're really quick reads, and I adore Sherlock Holmes, even though he can be a pain in the ass, but he's just so iconic and fun to read about. So those two are the reasons why I adore historical detective novels. So yeah, now it's your turn.
So my number 2 is Fruit Basket, with on the cover Toru. Yeah, that's Toru, by Natsuki Takaya. It is also a manga series, and I really adore this series because it made me feel, and it's about a family, the Somas, who got cursed. So when they touch someone of the opposite sex, they transform in the animals of the 12th zodiac. And Toru, she lost her mother, and she's living in a tent because her grandfather is renovating his house, and she doesn't have the place to stay. And it is on the property of the family of the Somas. So she meets them, and she befriends them, and yeah, it is really about the family, the dynamic, about the toll it takes on the parents of the people who got cursed, because of course it kind of freaks you out when you touch your baby and then it transforms into an animal, or when it's weak and sick it transforms into an animal. And there's one black sheep of the family who is cursed into the sign of the cat, and of course it's not part of the 12th zodiac, but it is because he betrayed the 12 animals, and that's why it's kicked out of the graces of the god who was having a party with the animals. Yeah, and it's really about discrimination between inside a family. It's about loss and pain and depression and loneliness, and the expectations people have, and the grip the god, the head of the family has on the rest of the family, because he is really, really lonely and he can deal with it. And and it's about Tori, who is learning the people were cursed, the meaning of unconditional love, because most of them don't know it and didn't get it. So that's why I really liked it.
I read this series as well. So a quick. I also read manga, and my two favorite series are Hanayori Dango and Marmalade Boy. So but those aren't on the list right now, but those are my favorites. So now I'm going to talk about honorable mentions. I have a lot of them, so I'm not going to get into much detail, otherwise it's going to be a very long video. But the first one is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Another classical honorable mention, excuse me, is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. The other two classics I haven't had on my bookshelves, unfortunately, but I'm going to buy them eventually. But that one, those two, the first one I read on recommendation from Mother. It's called Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. It's Dracula by Bram Stoker. Now moving on to modern horror, you could call it. It's very well known in BookTube as well, and it's called The Diviners by Deborah Bray. I just adore School of Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. And it is also a historical detective. It's set in Greek, ancient Greece. And the first one is called The Ionia Sanction, and the writer is Gary Corby. He's an Australian. The next one is also well known in the book community, and it's The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This is the first book in a quartet, I believe. No, trilogy. And then we have another middle grade. It's called it's a whole series. It's the Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddell. Look at the pictures. It's littered with like pictures. I believe Chris Riddell is the artist, and Paul Stewart writes the books. And historical fiction. It's called And I Darken by Kirsten White. It's also a well-known book in the booktube community. It's a trilogy. The third book is going to be out this year, and it's the next one is a thriller in the vein of Da Vinci Code, but it's written in Dutch and it's by a Dutch author, and it takes place in Leiden. I studied in Leiden, so it's my second home. So it's fine. A second detective is actually a spy novel that's set during the Victorian era, and it's called The Agency, A Spy in the House by G.I.S. Lee. And this may sound strange, but my favorite book in the series is the last book, and it's like the only book that's a favorite of mine. So I don't really like the whole series, but the last book is just like fantastic. And it's called The Midnight Star by Mary Lou. It's also a well-known book or series is the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. And we have a book that isn't very well known, and I believe it's middle grade, and I read it when I was still in, I don't know what the English version is, but I read it when I was around like 10, 12, I think. And it's called Hatchet by Gary Paulson, and it's RF. The first one is part of a series, is also a historical detective, is set in the Victoria era, and it's set in Scotland. It's called, this book is the most recent one, it's the fourth, I believe, and it's called Loch of the Dead, Oscar de Muriel, by Oscar de Muriel. The last one is written by an author who's sort of well known on BookTube, not as much as like Cassandra Clare, but he also co-wrote with his wife a book series. That's my number one book series that I'm going to talk about later after Eike has talked about her small pile of honorable mentions.
Yep.
But this one is called I chose the second book because the second book is the best. Is Silver Stars by Michael Grant. And
I only have 3, so that's going to take not as long. 2 of them are mangas. The first is Karakano, His or Her Circumstances by Matsumi Tsuda. Yeah, my sister wants to mention one book in honorable mentions, but because she forgot it. So there we go.
So, I forgot, like I said, I forgot to mention this one. But this one was the one that made me think, well, maybe I have to have honorable mentions. So, like, I don't know why I forgot. But it's called, I talked about it previously, but it's called Life of Pi by Jean Martel.
So, the second one is also mangas, Please Save My Earth, from, let's see, Saki Hiwatari.
A well-known book, of course.
Yes, this is the second one, but I don't have the first one because I lent it out. But it's the Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin.
Number 1, drumroll please, is Animorphs by K.A. Applegate. There we are. It's Kate Applegate is the wife of Michael Grant, who I talked about previously. But they wrote it together, the series. It's about a group of kids who one day walk across a construction site and encounter an alien. And the alien gives them the ability to morph, so they can change. First they have to absorb the DNA of animals, and then they can change into those animals. And he also tells them about a race of other aliens that are already on Earth and who are planning to take over the humans by going into their ears and taking over their minds and their bodies. They're already among the humans. So those children are going to fight those aliens. And it's really fascinating because the writer said it wasn't supposed to be this serious. It was just supposed to be fun, just children having the ability to change into animals, just fun, right? But it changed into so much more. It's about kid soldiers and about what moral questions that you have to ask yourself when you're in a situation during war. You have to make tough choices, and when children have to make those choices, it's extra hard, it's extra difficult, it's extra painful. And it's what I find this good about the series is it shows the toll war takes on a person, on their moral health, you could call it, about their psyche, about everything about them actually. And so they're thrust into this situation where there are 4 humans, later they're joined by another alien, who have to fight a whole alien invasion. They're the only ones standing between the annihilation of the human race and saving the human race. And it's like what you call guerrilla warfare. They're practicing guerrilla warfare, and it's just the toll it takes, and they have to make such difficult choices. There are instances of genocide. There are instances of having to kill people you love in order to save people you love. Characters are really fascinating. You have a boy who's the leader, has to make really difficult choices. He's the one who has to decide between genocide and the real possibility that the human race is going to be overtaken. Want to be a leader, and those are the best kinds of leaders. But it's just the role he takes. It's just naturally he takes that on. And you have the funny guy. He's called Marco, and he has a widowed father. He lost his mother, and his humor is really like a device to hide his own pain and anxieties, because he's like, my father already lost my mother, I can't do it to him. So he's really hesitant at the beginning, but something happens, I'm not going to spoil it, that makes it change his mind, it makes him extra motivated to fight. If they are really stressed out, or if they have to go on a mission and they're like really nervous, and he's the one that cuts the tensions, he's the one that makes them relax a little bit, so he's really important for the group. And I have Rachel. She's the cousin of the leader, and she's really beautiful, and she can walk through a storm and she'll still comes out looking like a model, supermodel. So, but she has a really dark side. She's bloodthirsty, you could call it. And then you have the other girl is called, I looked it up, Cassie, Cassie, she's African American, and she cares a lot about animals, and she's the one who is like the moral compass of the group, and she's the one who often thinks, are we doing the right thing? Are we using, actually, are we the same as the aliens we're fighting? They're called the Yeerks. Or, yeah, are we the same? And as a reader, it's like, oh no, of course not, because you're not taking over those animals, you're just loaning their DNA, or become a copy of them. You don't become them, you know?
Yeah.
So, but she's that morally conflicted. Even those questions she asks. We have Tobias, who is he's an orphan, and he's shuttled between family members, and his family doesn't really care about him, so they often don't know where he is, and they don't really care. So it's very grey sometimes. So there are jerks who are conflicted by what they're doing, and they want to have a peaceful coexistence with species. So they don't want to take hosts by force. And you also have the Andalites. That those are the alien who has them the power is called an Andalite, and he has in his race or species. You think they're the good guys, but actually they only care about themselves.
Okay, and my number one, Guardians of the Moon by Steven Erikson. It's the first book of my favorite series of all time, The Madison Book of the Fallen. It's written by Steven Erikson. He and a friend of his were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they had all played out all the books, so they created their own world, the world of Wu. And while they were creating it and playing it out in the Dungeons and Dragons sessions, they came with the idea to write a screenplay for a movie, but didn't get greenlit. So they went ahead and changed it into a book, and it grew out in a series of 10, and a few novellas set in the same world, and those are written by the other author, Ian C. Aselmont. And now they're writing the two trilogies, prequels about this world. And so, but the main series is my favorite series of all time. And yeah, it's about an empire, the Melanesian Empire, who is conquering territory to spread out the empire. And it's about the soldiers who are fighting in its armies, and it's also sheds light on the other parties who are fighting against the empire. And yeah, it's about great themes about redemption, about the morality of the choices you make. It's also about carving out your own path, and it's not really grey about what's wrong and what's right, good and evil, but there are also a few instances of people who were really just plain wrong. But it's also about most of fantasy series they always go down in a great fight, and the hero slays the villain. But here it's about they're still just human beings, so they can slip up and fall down the stairs and break their neck. So sometimes it's not in the great.
Like that's the Book of the Fallen. They fall from the stairs.
Yeah, but
all of them, all protagonists fall from the stairs.
No. It is called the Madison Book of the Fallen because during war there are a lot of casualties, and Again, when you're a hero, it doesn't mean you live until the end of days. You die when you get wounded or not. Depends, of course, on the wound. But what I find fascinating about this series is the dynamic between the characters, and again about the themes, because this one character who was also really the antagonist of the whole debacle. Is the fallen god. It's a god who got called out of a different world because they needed his power to defeat an evil emperor. But he gets tethered to the world, and because he's wounded, his wounds poison the earth. So a few of the characters, they want to eliminate him because he wants to be freed, and to make that happen, he has a few plans, and well, it's how do you call it? It is about righting wrongs. It is about fighting against odds, even if and that doing good is a choice, and it's not something that is in you by birth or something. You have to make choice by choice by choice by choice by choice. It's about that. To make the best out of the situation you're in, and to always make choices, and how difficult it is to make the right ones. And it's also about dignity, about like the writer said, it is a cry against the apathy of the pain of others. So it's a cry to don't accept the bad that's in your life. Fight against it. Always demand the best. And don't just roll over when stuff. When things that get tough. No, raise your head and fight against it. And also fight against the pain of others. So when you have the means to help them, and only just not, and if you don't have the means to help them, don't turn your head away like from I can do nothing, so I'm not going to see your pain. No, look at it. Look at the pain, the suffering some people have, because that way they at least get acknowledged. Then at least know, okay, there are people who see me. They see me struggling. They see me in pain. Don't close your eyes for it. Don't think, well, it is. I can't do anything about it. No. Don't accept that.
So those were our top 5, and many, in my case, many honorable mentions. I hope you guys like this video. We have another one up soon. I hope. I'm going to try to have one up every day. So we'll see. I don't know about next week. We have to see. Because she's going to go to the other side of the country again. The camera's going to be staying here, so I'm going to film some things, and she can film some on her phone and send it to me. So, but we'll see. We're not going to have videos together next week. So, but we're going to post videos anyway. So. That's it for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, like the video, comment on your top 5 books, and maybe also which books that we presented to you did you read and what you thought about it.